right after Russia and the United States wrapped up a closed-door 5-hour negotiation in Moscow, the world witnessed a shocking turn of events. NATO suddenly signaled an unexpected move, pushing global tensions to a critical flashpoint. The meeting between the U.S. delegation, led by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and President Vladimir Putin, was expected to open a path toward de-escalation in the deadlocked Ukraine conflict. But instead of a breakthrough or even a modest step forward, what happened after the talks left the international community stunned. Because just hours after the negotiation ended, a top NATO military official delivered a bombshell statement. The alliance is considering preemptive actions in response to Russia's expanding hybrid warfare operations. A statement like this has never been made at such a sensitive moment, and it instantly reshaped the geopolitical landscape. Moscow reacted furiously. Russia's foreign ministry accused NATO of irresponsible and dangerous escalation. State media looped Putin's latest warning: if Europe wants war, Russia is ready. Hope for dialogue turned into a new wave of fear in just a few hours. What exactly happened behind those Kremlin doors? Why did NATO issue such an aggressive signal immediately after the US-Russia meeting? And is this sudden shift dragging the world closer to a major confrontation? In this video, we break down the timeline, the motives, and the deeper implications of this unprecedented moment. Stay focused, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see the current global crisis. To understand why NATO reacted with such urgency, we need to look closely at the outcome of the US-Russia meeting. Although both sides described the discussions as constructive, insiders quickly revealed that no real progress was made. The core issues, Ukraine's territorial status, Russian military presence, and security guarantees, remained completely unresolved. Sources familiar with the talks said that Putin offered a version of a peace framework, but the U.S. delegation found it unacceptable. At the same time, the American proposal demanded that Russia halt multiple military operations and cyber campaigns, something Moscow refused to even consider. In short, both sides walked away with the same disagreements they came in with. But the timing is what made NATO react so sharply. Within hours of the failed negotiations, intelligence briefings circulated among NATO members suggested that Russia was preparing to intensify hybrid warfare efforts in Eastern Europe, including cyber attacks, disinformation operations, and potential sabotage of critical infrastructure. This combination stalled diplomacy, and alarming intelligence triggered immediate concern. That's why General Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone, chairman of NATO's military committee, made the controversial remark about a possible preemptive response. He didn't state that an attack was imminent, but he made it clear that NATO was shifting from a reactive posture to a proactive one, a rare and serious signal. For NATO, the message was simple. If diplomacy fails and Russian pressure increases, the alliance will not wait to be caught off guard. And for Moscow, that message landed like a provocation. Moscow's reaction to NATO's statement was immediate and explosive. Within minutes, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned the alliance, calling the comments reckless, provocative, and a deliberate attempt to escalate tensions. Russian state television pushed an even stronger narrative, warning that NATO was inching dangerously close to crossing a red line. But behind the public outrage, Russian analysts highlighted a deeper concern: the fear that NATO's shift might reflect a broader, coordinated Western strategy, one that could harden Europe's stance against Moscow, just as Russia hoped for diplomatic flexibility. This is where the European dilemma begins. While some EU states privately welcomed the US, Russia talks, hoping they might produce a path to de-escalation. Others were alarmed. Several Eastern European governments believed any negotiation involving Washington and Moscow without Kyiv's direct involvement could pressure Ukraine into accepting territorial losses. Their message was clear: no peace deal that rewards aggression. NATO's sudden shift, therefore, can be seen as a way to reassure these nervous members. By publicly signaling a tougher posture, the alliance reminded both Russia and Europe that it would not compromise regional security, regardless of diplomatic development. However, the risk is obvious. The harder NATO pushes, the harder Moscow pushes back. Putin's latest warning, if Europe wants war, Russia is ready, was not just rhetoric. It was a strategic signal aimed at deterring further Western escalation, while reminding the world that Russia is prepared for confrontation if pushed too far. To understand NATO's sudden shift, we must examine the underlying forces shaping the alliance's strategy. The first factor is strategic uncertainty. After months of battlefield stalemate and rising global tension, Western intelligence agencies have repeatedly warned that Russia's hybrid operations are becoming more aggressive, targeting energy grids, satellite systems, financial networks, and political institutions across Europe. For many NATO commanders, these actions are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader campaign designed to weaken Europe from within. The second factor is internal pressure from Eastern European members. Countries like Poland, Lithuania, and Estonia have been urging NATO to take a firmer stance. These states, located closest to Russia, view any softening of the Western position as potentially catastrophic. The moment the US-Russia talks ended without a breakthrough, these governments demanded immediate reassurance that their security would not be traded away in pursuit of a vague diplomatic deal. The third factor is the fear of misinterpretation. NATO leaders worry that if they remain silent after high-level talks, Moscow may interpret the silence as weakness or hesitation. By issuing a strong public statement, the alliance ensured that there would be no room for misunderstanding about its intentions or resolve. Finally, NATO's move was also meant to send a message to Washington. Any peace framework must be coordinated with the alliance, not negotiated separately. A unilateral US-Russia deal could undermine NATO's unity, weaken its deterrence posture, and fracture the European security architecture. In short, NATO acted quickly, not because war is imminent, but because uncertainty is. And uncertainty in geopolitics can be just as dangerous. As the dust settles after the failed US-Russia negotiations, global security analysts are zeroing in on one crucial period: the next 30 days, a window that may determine whether the situation stabilizes or spirals into a far more dangerous phase. With NATO shifting its tone and Russia issuing increasingly defiant warnings, this short time frame is now viewed as the most volatile moment since the early stages of the Ukraine conflict. Experts outline three major scenarios, each carrying its own level of risk. Scenario 1: manage tension, the best possible outcome. In the most optimistic case, Moscow and Washington quietly resume back-channel communication. Neither side concedes anything significant, but both agree implicitly to avoid sudden escalations. NATO maintains its elevated readiness but does not deploy new major assets, and Russia refrains from any dramatic military movement. This scenario keeps tensions high yet controlled. However, analysts warn that even within this stable environment, a single mistake could still unravel the calm. Scenario 2: hybrid warfare escalation, the most likely track. Many intelligence reports already point toward this path. Russia may ramp up cyber attacks targeting energy grids, banking systems, or government networks in Eastern Europe. At the same time, disinformation campaigns could intensify, aiming to destabilize NATO unity. If these actions increase, NATO will feel pressured to respond, likely through rapid response units, defensive cyber operations, or preemptive protective deployments. Neither side wants a full-scale war, but both may unintentionally push the conflict closer to the edge. Scenario 3. A trigger event, the nightmare possibility. This is the scenario that worries policymakers the most. A naval encounter in the Baltic, a clash near the Poland-Belarus border, or a major cyber attack that shuts down critical infrastructure. In moments like these, decisions are made in minutes, often without full information, and history shows such incidents can rapidly spiral beyond control. A misinterpreted radar signal, an unidentified drone, or an accidental border crossing could ignite a crisis no one is prepared to handle. As we reach the end of this analysis, one truth becomes impossible to ignore: the failed.us. Russia talks have triggered a geopolitical chain reaction that neither side can fully control. What began as a cautious diplomatic effort has now evolved into a complex, high-stakes struggle involving Washington, Moscow, NATO, and the entire European continent. NATO's sudden shift toward a more assertive posture was not simply a reaction, it was a message to Russia that the alliance is prepared to respond decisively, and a message to the United States that Europe will not accept any peace arrangement that undermines its security. Meanwhile, Russia's warnings, military rhetoric, and accusations of Western aggression show a nation determined to defend its strategic ambitions. The next few weeks will test the stability of the international system. Every statement, every movement of troops, every cyber incident, and every diplomatic remark will carry more weight than ever before. This is a moment when miscalculation could reshape global politics. The world now stands on a narrow ledge between fragile diplomacy and potential escalation. Whether we move toward renewed dialogue or drift into deeper confrontation will depend on decisions made in the coming days, decisions that could define the future of Europe and beyond. One thing is certain: the story is far from over.